Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we've got an unboxing and we're going to do a little review of the Porter Cable Quik Jig pocket hole joinery system, model number 560. So this was purchased recently to replace my Harbor Freight unit. And so let's look at the box and what comes in it. I'll read it off as we pull it out. I've seen a lot of people talk about this jig online. Not a lot of video reviews, so I want to be able to provide one of those for you. And so as we look at how this comes out of the box, packed in here we've got packing cardboard. It feels like there's screws in there. We've got our user manual. We've got another box. Feels like screws. We'll set that aside. And then we have the jig itself. And we'll set that aside. And here we can now see the Porter Cable Jig, Quik Jig. And let's take a look at what came in those boxes. In the first box, we've got several packages of pocket hole screws. These are black and have a number 2 Robertson head on them. There's 1, 2, 3 different sizes of screws. And our next cardboard box out of here we've got, let's take the wrapping off here. We've got a clamp here. It's got nice plates on the end, vice grip style, adjustable at the end. So you'll be able to hold your pieces flat and flush between the plates here whenever you go to actually insert your pocket holes. So that's a nice little extra, although I think maybe that would have, some cost could have been saved by not including that. Next out of the box, and this is the last bit out of the box, is we've got our drill bit, our number 2 Robertson drive long, number 2 short, our collar, and an Allen key for setting the collar. So as we look at the Quik Jig, just for reference, let me get a tape measure. The jig is about 8 1/4 inch, about 8 1/4 inches tall by about a foot long, depending upon how you orientate the jig. We come around to the back side. Here we've got a dust collection port, and this is one of the things that made this attractive to me. This tray slides out, and we're going to check and see what size vacuum fitting that is. For the vacuum port, we've got, if you're taking a 2.5 to 1 1/4 adapter, this particular one fits a little loose on there, but I have an 1 7/8 to 1 1/4 adapter, and this one actually fits nice and snug for my 1 7/8 hoses. I tried a 2.5 around here, and I also tried my 1 7/8. And I don't know, I don't have an 1 1/4 hose without doing one of those adapters. But I'm really excited about having this little dust collection pan. We'll see how that works here when we get the jig to use. And so that slides right in the back. Actually, you could hear that, it actually snaps into place. You can see the dust collection tray there. It's got a nice snapping feel when it pops in. As we go around to the other side here of the jig, we've got a stop that can be raised up out of the way. So if you want to repeat cuts relative to one side, you can have the stop, or you can screw it back out of the way and then flip it up and out like that. When it's fully engaged, you unfortunately can't flip it back out of the way quite as easily. Now if you look at the accessories that came with it, this includes onboard storage, for our for our long number 2 Robertson square drive bit. We're also going to be able to store our shorter square drive bit, just like that. So those two store right on board. If we flip this around to the other side, we've got a spot at the bottom here for our drill bit. And so here our drill bit can fit in there. And we've got a collar for the drill bit. That just snugs right up. We'll have to loosen the set screw here. And so one of the exciting parts about this jig is that it's supposed to be a no-fuss setup, that the jig just works regardless of the size of the lumber that you have. This goes up to about 2.5 inches in diameter. I'm sorry, in thickness. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. This is supposed to be a no-fuss jig that goes up to 1.5 inches in thickness. So now our collar here gets set just like that on the material here, and then on the side we've got another little reference right here that indicates what size of screw you should use, from 1 to 2.5 inches, just as a quick reference. You come around to the top of the jig, you can see the holes. There's actually 2 of them, one here and one here, and it is adjustable, so we can move the left hole left to right. And one of the other things I like about this is if we look down here at the face, this actually provides fairly good contact all the way around that pocket hole that's being drilled. That was one of my complaints about the Harbor Freight, and hopefully this will limit tear out. On the other side here, there's a knurled backing. It's actually built into the material here to keep it from slipping. It's kind of like maybe about an 80 grit sandpaper-ish, give or take. And you can see right there is the tray that the vacuum port sucks the material out of. So to set your material thickness, we're going to use this jaw here, and we're going to slide this down, and then we're just going to give it a clockwise turn, about maybe that's about a quarter turn, and secure that into place, and that'll automatically set your pocket hole. Then when you need to remove your workpiece, take the black little paws here on the back, lift it up, and let it retract it enough that you should be able to remove it. And if we look down at the sides, there's actually mounting holes that you could screw this down to a piece of wood or to a workbench. Now if you mount it down this way, everything's fine. If you mount it, you gotta be careful on the back side for how you mount with your dust collection port. If you take your dust collection port out, you could actually flip this up like this, if that was easier for your production work, or for the boards that you're trying to use it with. Certainly a possibility. So Porter Cable's made this dead simple for trying to get everything set up just right. So let's go ahead and proceed to do a quick test. So I've got a piece of, this is a 3/4 inch thick material. We're going to go ahead and slide this into place. I'm going to push it down with the jaws in the back. Now I'm going to slide this down. And so this is going to be set so that the pocket holes are going down this way. And I'll take my drill bit here, I'll put this into my drill, and then the holes, and we'll drill it just down straight like this, and wherever this one is located like this. One of the obvious things that you see is just how long and massive this drill bit is. The drill bit from tip to end measures about 9 inches in length. Okay, so now here we're going to go with cutting a pocket hole on here with this all set up in place. I didn't have the dust collection on, and we're going to cut one more just for good measure. And now let's take a look at the holes that we just cut. As we move our workpiece, we got some dust in here, so let me just knock that out. Clean on the sides. A little bit of tear out actually on the back side here, but I maybe should have my drill bit going a little bit faster. So that looks nice. Now let's give this another shot. Now I've got one of the fancy paint grade pocket hole fills, and we'll see if this fits. This is one of the pocket hole fill strips from Big Blue Pocket Hole. This actually fits down. I can slide it down into place fairly well, but it does stand off just a little bit, so it's not quite flush. When I look on the end, you can see where that actually is coming out almost centered on the board here on that hole. Can't really make it out so well on this one for how far that's supposed to go, but these Craig pocket hole inserts don't quite fit me as flush as I might prefer them to. I'm not a huge fan of these anyway, if you see my other videos where I've used other ways to be able to fill pocket holes besides these, but sometimes these are just the best fit. So if you do use these are going to have to be sanded flat. And after that cut, you can see here is the mess that we've got. And let's look and see how much is in that tray. Actually, I'm a fool, and I forgot to put the tray in, so of course the tray is clean, but you can see where the tray would have been. It actually does have some dust down. You've got gravity pulling it down. So I feel like a fool, so we're going to do another set of cuts that actually has the dust tray in place. Okay, you just saw me cut 2 pocket holes with the dust collection on. Let's take a look and see. Dust collection tray as it comes out. Nothing there, but you saw the other sawdust and debris on the jig. Now let's look and see what the drill shifted into high gear. See how these pocket holes came out. This is actually kind of some soft pine. These look a little bit better. A little bit of rough sanding on the side. So I'm pretty pleased with that. That looks rather nice. One of the shortcomings of this jig is the way that the material gets placed in the jig. There's a little shelf right here that's about 3/4 of an inch wide, and then there's the dust collection pan down here. So if you're working with some thin stock, you've got to make sure that you get it up on the shelf and that it doesn't go backwards. If we drop the clamp down, let me see if I can do this. If I drop the clamp down, it'll help to limit that from backing out. Obviously, if you're drilling pocket holes, you need the extra length going vertical here to be able to get your hole where your screw threaded through. So hopefully that's not a problem, but you got to make sure that things are squared up there just right. You also, at the top here, this is actually designed to give, and that give, you see these little struts here that kick out that push into the side of the board. I've got the board out here so you can see the exaggeration here as I push down. You see that kick out there, and so that's just going to be your indication that it's time to stop your drill and pull out on your hole. The system is almost foolproof for how to set things up. There is no actual stop to lock this in, but it's pretty stiff, and it has held just fine for me so far with my first project that I put this through. The flip stop is a little flimsy, but one of the ideas that this gave me is that you could actually mount this to something and actually maybe put in some T-track with some additional little flip stops instead of this one here. I'm not sure I like this necessarily for the quality, but I'm going to keep it because it's still just a nice little extra feature that I didn't have in my old one. Another issue with this is that if you're trying to get or use your flip stop with some with some narrow boards, it's going to reference inside of here, so it's harder to get a good reference plane for something to reference off of. If you also got some other finish here, be careful with the serrated or the slightly rough surface on the back. It doesn't grind your finish. Otherwise, this was a very smooth working jig to be able to drill the holes. If you look at the drill with the drill bit, it is rather long, and I was fearful of it being cumbersome, but so far it's actually not been a problem. It's felt fairly comfortable, even though it just looks really bizarrely long in the hands. When I've had to move this On the back side up here, the way that these supports and the casting on this jig, I think this is aluminum, are actually such I can get my fingers under here to be able to lift it up and hold it as a little grip. So that's been nice. So I'm still trying to figure out some sort of mechanism to place this into that'll work for holding it long term, as well as making it maneuverable around the shop. You could obviously permanently mount this with the holes here. That would work. The bits hold rather nicely on the side. This is the longer one. I don't know what's that, maybe about 6 inches. There's another about a 3-inch bit that I've used. I hope you found this useful about the Porter Cable Quik Jig. Coming up in the next couple weeks, expect a side-by-side review of this and the Harbor Freight unit. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click subscribe to look forward to that video and other exciting videos out of my garage and shop. I hope you found this useful, and have a great day. Bye.